Hit me. 2 words. That's all he said. The room didn't laugh. The room didn't move. 31 people stood frozen inside that private gym in Los Angeles. Trainers, fighters, reporters, and 2 men who had been arguing about the same question for months. Who hits harder? Muhammad Ali, the heavyweight champion of the entire world, looked down at the man standing across from him. 5 feet 7 inches, 135 pounds. Ali smiled. Not a nervous smile. The smile of a man who already knew the punchline. You serious, little man? Bruce Lee didn't blink. I'm always serious. 7 seconds later, nobody in that room was smiling anymore. It was 1972. Los Angeles was a city obsessed with 2 things: movies and muscle. And Bruce Lee was the most dangerous man in both worlds. His film Fist of Fury had already broken box office records across Asia. Hollywood was beginning to notice. Producers wanted him. Directors feared him. Martial artists studied him the way scholars study scripture. But inside the American boxing world, the real, brutal, heavyweight world, Bruce Lee was still just a movie star. A small movie star. And Muhammad Ali was God. Ali had just returned from his exile. 3.5 years stripped of his title for refusing the Vietnam draft, but he came back. He always came back. He reclaimed the heavyweight championship. He was bigger than boxing. He was bigger than sport. He was the most recognizable human being on the planet, and he moved through the world like he knew it. So when the 2 men ended up in the same room, in a private gym off Wilshire Boulevard, arranged through mutual contacts, it wasn't supposed to be a confrontation. It was supposed to be a meeting, a photo opportunity, a friendly exchange between 2 legends of their respective crafts. Ali's trainer, Angelo Dundee, had set it up. A few of Bruce's training partners were present. Some journalists who had been sworn to silence. A camera crew from a Japanese magazine. The footage they captured. We'll get back to that. Ali walked in first. 6 feet 3 inches of pure physical architecture. Broad shoulders, long arms, legs that moved with impossible grace for a man his size. He filled a room the way thunder fills a valley. You felt him before you saw him. He shook hands, laughed, performed. That was Ali's genius. He was always performing, always working the room, always the largest personality regardless of who else stood there. Then Bruce Lee walked in. The contrast was almost comedic. Almost. One of Ali's sparring partners, a man named Reggie, who stood 6'2" and weighed 240, leaned over to another fighter and whispered something. The words were quiet, but the laughter wasn't. Bruce didn't acknowledge it. He never did. He walked to the center of the gym, set down his bag, and began stretching. Slowly, methodically, like a man alone in his own private universe. Ali watched him. Something shifted in Ali's expression. Just slightly. The performance dropped for half a second. He'd seen a lot of fighters in his life. He knew how a man moved when he was comfortable in his body, and this small, quiet man moved with a terrifying economy of motion. Nothing wasted, nothing performed, everything loaded. Like a weapon at rest. But Ali was Ali. He recovered instantly. "I've seen your movies," Ali said, voice booming across the gym. "You move pretty good. For the screen." The room laughed. Bruce straightened up from his stretch. Turned slowly. "The screen is slower than I am," he said. No smile. No anger. Just fact. The laughter stopped.
What happened next has been reconstructed from 6 separate eyewitness accounts. The Japanese camera crew captured approximately 40 seconds of footage before one of Ali's handlers asked them to stop filming. What happened to that footage is a story for another day. But the people in that room, They remember. Ali began circling. Not to fight, not yet. He was testing, reading. Ali did this instinctively with everyone. He was always calculating, always measuring, always looking for the angle. He circled left. Bruce tracked him. He circled right. Bruce rotated at the hip, just slightly, always perfectly positioned, no wasted movement. "You're fast," Ali said. "You haven't seen fast yet," Bruce replied. Ali stopped. He looked at Bruce the way a chess grandmaster looks at a board when someone unexpected makes a brilliant move, reassessing, recalibrating. "All right," Ali said slowly. "Show me." This is where the accounts begin to differ slightly in their details, but not in their conclusion. One witness, a trainer named Herb Johnson who was in Ali's corner for 17 professional fights, described it this way in a private letter written years later. Bruce asked Ali to hold his arm out. Just extend it, keep it relaxed. Ali did it like it was a joke, like he was playing along. And then something happened that I still don't have the right words for. Bruce Lee stepped forward. One step. He extended 2 fingers, not a fist, not an open hand, 2 fingers, and placed them gently against Ali's chest. Ali raised an eyebrow. The room half smiled. This looked like a magic trick, a parlor game, a little man trying to seem impressive. "Now," Bruce said quietly, "don't move." Ali's expression said, "I'm not going to move. What are you going to do?" Bruce set himself. His feet found their position with microscopic precision. His weight shifted, barely visible, like a wave moving beneath still water. His shoulder dropped 1 centimeter, his elbow tucked, his wrist aligned. Everything happened in the geometry of the body, invisible to untrained eyes. Then he looked up at Ali, and Ali looked down at Bruce. The room went completely, utterly silent. You could hear the ventilation system humming. You could hear someone's sneakers shift on the polished floor. "Hit me," Bruce said.
Ali blinked. "What?" "Hit me first, as hard as you want. Then I'll show you something." Ali looked at his trainer. Angelo Dundee stood against the far wall, arms folded, watching with the focused attention of a man who has seen everything and is now watching something he hasn't seen before. Angelo gave a small shrug. Ali turned back. He reset his stance. The playfulness drained from his face. Because Ali was, before anything else, a professional. And a professional, when asked to perform, performs. He pulled his right hand back. Not a full wind-up, not a street fight haymaker. This was a controlled, technical, heavy jab from the right hand of the heavyweight champion of the world. It moved fast. It did not land. Bruce Lee slipped left. The word slipped doesn't capture it, because slipping implies reaction time, implies seeing the punch and responding. This was something else. This was anticipation. His head moved before Ali's fist finished its intention, before the muscles fully fired. Bruce was already there, in the safe space, the punch cutting air where his face had been. Ali's eyes went wide, just for a fraction. The room exhaled. But Bruce wasn't done. From the slip, in the same continuous motion, no pause, no reset, no telegraphing, his right hand came up, 1 inch from Ali's jaw. Stopped. Perfectly controlled. An inch. He could have landed it. Everyone in that room knew he could have landed it. The geometry was perfect. The speed was terrifying. The control required to stop that strike with that precision, at that velocity. That's not restraint. That's mastery, at a level that makes restraint look like something else entirely. Ali stared at the fist, hovering 1 inch from his face. 3 seconds passed. Nobody breathed. Ali slowly reached up and moved Bruce's hand away. Not aggressively, gently. The way you move a blade away from your skin when you finally realize it's there. He took 1 step back. And then Muhammad Ali, the man who had talked non-stop since birth, who could fill a stadium with his voice, who had a quote for every moment and a performance for every room, said nothing. For 7 full seconds. He just looked at Bruce Lee. Bruce lowered his hand, adjusted his collar. His expression hadn't changed once during the entire sequence. Not during Ali's jab, not during the slip, not during the strike, not now. "That," Bruce said quietly, "is what I wanted you to feel."
Ali didn't laugh. That was the thing nobody expected. Muhammad Ali, the man who laughed at everything, who turned every room into a stage, who had mocked Joe Frazier, George Foreman, Sonny Liston, the entire United States government, stood in that gym on Wilshire Boulevard and did not produce a single sound. He just breathed. His chest rose and fell. His eyes stayed on Bruce Lee. His hands, those famous hands, those instruments of destruction that had rearranged the faces of the greatest fighters alive, hung loose at his sides. Angelo Dundee pushed off the wall, walked slowly to the center of the room, stood beside Ali, looked at Bruce. Then he looked at Ali. "You felt that?" Angelo asked quietly. Ali nodded. "Once." "The stop?" "The whole thing," Ali said. "From the beginning." Angelo turned to Bruce. His expression was the expression of a man doing mathematics in his head, rapid, private, serious. "Do it again," Angelo said. "Full speed. Don't stop." Bruce looked at him. "I stopped for a reason." Angelo understood immediately. He nodded and stepped back. What the witnesses described in the minutes that followed wasn't a fight. It wasn't a sparring session. It wasn't a demonstration. It was closer to a conversation between two completely different languages of violence, and the terrifying discovery that one of those languages operated at a speed the other couldn't fully process. Ali, to his enormous credit, tried. He reset his stance. He threw combinations. The famous Ali combination, the one that had dropped Liston, had staggered Foreman, had broken Frazier. Jab, jab, right hand, jab. Textbook. Powerful. Technically flawless. Bruce wasn't there for any of it. Not in the way a defensive fighter isn't there, backing up, covering, surviving. Bruce moved through the combinations, between them, in the gaps that shouldn't have been gaps because Ali's combinations weren't supposed to have gaps. That was the entire engineering of it. Ali threw punches the way a machine gun fires bursts, no daylight between them. Bruce found daylight. Reggie, the sparring partner who had laughed earlier, said nothing for the remainder of the session. He stood against the back wall with his arms folded and his jaw set, watching with the particular stillness of a man recalibrating everything he thought he knew. After the third combination, Ali stopped throwing. He stood up straight, dropped his hands. "How?" he said. Just that. One word. Bruce answered honestly. He always answered honestly when someone asked a real question. "You commit to a sequence," Bruce said. "Every fighter does. The sequence has a rhythm. I read the rhythm before the first punch finishes." Ali stared at him. "You read it before I throw?" "I read it when you decide," Bruce said. "The body announces the decision before the arm moves. Most people can't see the announcement. I've trained myself to see nothing else." Silence. Ali looked down at his own hands. Then back up. "That's not boxing." "No," Bruce agreed. "It isn't." The session lasted 47 minutes total. When it ended, Ali's team gathered their gear quietly. The usual post-training noise, the jokes, the boasting, the replaying of moments, was almost entirely absent. People moved carefully like they were leaving a place where something important had happened and weren't sure yet what it meant. Ali walked to the door. Stopped. Turned back to Bruce. "If we fought," Ali said. Not a challenge, not a performance. A genuine question from one professional to another. "You understand what I'm asking? Real ring, real rules. What happens?" Bruce considered it. "You land one punch," Bruce said. "It ends differently. You're the greatest heavyweight alive. I understand that completely." Ali nodded. "But if I don't land?" Bruce said nothing. Ali nodded again. Slower this time. "Yeah, that's what I thought." He walked out. The door closed. The room held its breath for another moment. Then slowly, gradually, the noise came back. But different, quieter, thoughtful. The way a crowd sounds after witnessing something they know they'll be describing for the rest of their lives, already trying to find the right words, and already knowing they won't quite get there.
The Japanese camera crew never published the footage. To this day, nobody knows exactly why. The magazine that commissioned the piece ran a brief written summary, 3 paragraphs, almost clinical in tone, describing a friendly exchange between 2 prominent athletes. No details, no confrontation, no 7-second silence. The photographer who was present, a man named Kenji Murakami, who had shot assignments across 4 continents, told a single interviewer in 1987 that the footage existed, that it was extraordinary, and that he had been asked, his word, asked, with a tone that implied the asking wasn't optional, to submit all materials without copies. He submitted them. He never saw them again. 3 of the 6 witnesses made statements of varying detail over the following decades. 2 of those statements were given anonymously. One witness, Herb Johnson, Ollie's trainer, never spoke publicly about it at all. The private letter he wrote was only discovered after his death in 2003, found in a shoebox in his son's garage in Detroit. The letter was 7 pages long. 6 pages described the session in careful detail. The 7th page was a single paragraph. I have been in the fight business for 31 years. I have stood in corners while giants hit each other. I have watched men get broken. I thought I had seen everything that human body could do. That afternoon in Los Angeles, I understood that I had seen almost nothing. That small man moved in a dimension I didn't know existed. I don't know how to explain it better than that. I don't think the right words have been invented yet. Word travels differently inside closed worlds. The public never heard about that afternoon. But inside the professional fighting community, among trainers, managers, cornermen, the quiet infrastructure of the sport, the story moved like smoke through a closed room, untraceable, everywhere. By 1973, 3 separate heavyweight contenders had quietly sought out Bruce Lee's training partners, asking to meet, not to challenge, to learn. One of them, a fighter whose name appears in the records of the World Boxing Association from that period, sat with one of Bruce's senior students for 2 hours in a dojo in San Francisco. He didn't want to learn Wing Chun. He didn't want to learn Jeet Kune Do. He wanted one thing. How does he read the decision before the punch? The student couldn't fully explain it, not because it was secret, because it was the kind of knowledge that lives in 10,000 hours of training and cannot be extracted and handed to someone across a table. The fighter left frustrated. That's the thing about Bruce Lee that his opponents never quite grasped, and that his admirers sometimes misunderstand. The speed was real. The power was real. The 1-inch punch, the 2-finger strike, the interceptions that shouldn't have been physically possible, all real. But none of it was a trick. None of it was a gift. It was the result of a man who had decided at a very young age that the body was a machine, and that machines could be engineered beyond their default specifications if you were willing to do the work that other people considered insane. Bruce trained while other people slept. He studied film of his own movements the way surgeons study anatomy, looking for inefficiency, looking for waste, looking for the 1 millimeter of unnecessary motion that could be eliminated. He trained his peripheral vision separately from his central vision. He trained his reaction time with tools he invented himself. He documented everything, measured everything, questioned everything. He was not merely a martial artist. He was a scientist of the human body who happened to be operating in an era before sports science existed as a formal discipline. Bruce said something once, in private, to a student, that didn't become public until years after his death. People watch me move and they see speed. What they're actually seeing is the elimination of everything that isn't necessary. Remove the unnecessary, and what's left moves at the speed of thought. That afternoon in Los Angeles, against the most celebrated fighter of the 20th century, Bruce Lee didn't demonstrate speed. He demonstrated subtraction. He had subtracted fear from his movement, so his body didn't hesitate. He had subtracted ego from his stance, so he had no position to protect. He had subtracted assumption from his perception, so he saw what was actually happening, not what he expected to happen. What Ali brought into that room was power. Legitimate, extraordinary, world champion power. The physics of Ali's right hand were not in dispute. What Bruce brought into that room was something that power had no mechanism to address. You cannot hit what has already understood you. You cannot overpower a mind that has already moved past the moment of impact. Ali knew this. That's why he went quiet. That's why when he asked the real question at the door, if I don't land, what happens? He already knew the answer, and simply needed to hear the silence confirm it. The silence confirmed it.
Bruce Lee died on July 20, 1973. He was 32 years old. He never got to see Enter the Dragon released. He never got to fully realize the cinematic vision he had been building toward. He never got to answer, in a public arena, the questions that afternoon in Los Angeles had raised. But the question itself didn't die. It has been asked in different forms by every generation that came after, by fighters who watched his films and felt something shift in their understanding of what the body could do, by trainers who incorporated principles they couldn't fully name but instinctively recognized as true, by scientists who eventually caught up to what Bruce had already mapped and found in their data confirmation of things he had written in his notebooks decades before the instruments existed to measure them. The room on Wilshire Boulevard eventually became something else, a parking structure, then a retail space, then nothing in particular. The physical geography of that afternoon dissolved into the city the way all physical geography eventually does. But what happened inside it didn't dissolve. It compounded. Every martial artist who ever threw a faster punch because they eliminated a wasted motion, that's Bruce Lee. Every fighter who learned to read an opponent's intention before the body moves, that's Bruce Lee. Every person who sat down with a notebook and asked themselves, how do I become more efficient, more precise, more truly myself in motion, that's Bruce Lee. He didn't just fight differently, he thought differently, and then he made the thinking physical. He made philosophy into something you could feel in your chest when a fist stopped 1 inch from your jaw and you understood with complete clarity that the man holding it had chosen mercy. Muhammad Ali, in a 1975 interview, was asked about Bruce Lee. The interviewer expected banter, expected performance, expected Ali to do what Ali always did, entertain, deflect, dominate the room with language. Ali paused, looked at the floor, then looked up. That man, Ali said, understood something about fighting that I respected. He understood it differently than anyone I ever met. The interviewer pressed, what specifically? Ali shook his head slowly. You'd have to have been in the room, he said. Some things you can't explain, you just know. He didn't elaborate. He never elaborated. Some of the people who were in that room are gone now. Some are old. Some remember it differently than others, the way all extraordinary human moments get refracted through time and through the particular lens of whoever is doing the remembering. But on one thing, every single witness agreed. Every single one. When Bruce Lee's hand stopped 1 inch from Muhammad Ali's jaw, and Ali looked at it, and the room went silent, and 7 full seconds passed without a single sound. Nobody in that room doubted, for even a fraction of a moment, what would have happened if Bruce Lee had decided not to stop. They said size was power. They said reach was advantage. They said 135 pounds couldn't walk into a room with the heavyweight champion of the world and make him go quiet. They were wrong about all of it. Because Bruce Lee didn't fight with his body. He fought with his mind. And by the time your body figured out what was happening, his mind was already 3 seconds ahead, waiting calmly for you to catch up. He never chased power. He became the thing that power couldn't touch. And in a gym in Los Angeles in 1972, in front of 31 witnesses and 1 camera that captured footage nobody was ever allowed to see, he proved it. 1 slip, 1 strike, 1 inch from the jaw of the greatest, 7 seconds of silence, and a legend that has never, not once, stopped growing. If this story hit different, subscribe. We go deep on the moments history almost forgot, the real ones, the ones that happened in rooms with no cameras, or cameras that disappeared. Every week, a new story that changes how you see the legends you thought you already knew. Subscribe. You don't want to miss what's coming next.